Slightly old news, but I saw this tweet, and now I've got to cover this story. We've got to take a look. This tweet reads, arresting a 45-year-old because he has a Hatsune Miku doll. Wow, welcome Clown World, everyone. And this is from the UK, who ignore the grooming gangs. So we're going to take a look at this article and a few others, few different websites that have covered this topic. Again, it's like a month old, but I think this flew under the radar. I didn't really see anyone covering it. I did a search on YouTube to see if this was an old story, on YouTube at least, and it's not really. So, old story, a month old on the internet, but pretty new for YouTube. So, let's take a look at what they have to say. Alright, in just a moment, we will go over to Sankaku Complex and take a look at their write-up regarding this story. Right off the bat, though, it seems like the issue here, this is taking place in Norway, and I guess this guy ordered a Hatsune Miku doll, as you already know, and it seems like the Supreme Court in Norway thinks that the doll of Hatsune Miku looks too childlike, and that's why he is now getting charged with this criminal offense, because the doll looks too childlike. Well, you know how anime is, you know how the characters are, you know how the animations are, you know how it is. So let's see what they have to say about all this and how absurd or not the story might be. But I'm leaning on it being more absurd than not. But let's take a look. Here it is. So again, from Sankaku Complex, they write, a 45-year-old man has been punished for the evil crime of importing a doll back in 2016, with Norway's Supreme Court deeming it to have childlike proportions and that it was shaped for adult-themed purposes. Such details qualified the 1-meter-tall doll as attributing to the adult-themed purposes of children, a criminal offense that led to the denial of the man's appeal. But this is a doll of Hatsune Miku. It's not a child. It's not even a childlike doll. It's simply a doll of a virtual pop star. As far as I understand, Miku doesn't really have a specific age. I mean, if I go on Google right now, I don't think Miku Hatsune has an age. She's also not real. Apparently, she does have an age. All right, she's 16 years old, according to Google. So, I guess you can argue that. But again, she's a virtual doll. She's 16 in Japan. Or where do you draw the lines towards virtual, real world, virtual age that doesn't actually mean anything because there's no biology there because it's a virtual character? But where is the line? Is there a line that would ever be crossed in such circumstances or not? And if there is a line, where does the penalty get drawn? Where's that line? Because it seems like a criminal offense. That's certainly excessive, even if you want to argue that this guy did something wrong, which I don't even know if he has. Let's continue on with the story for now and see, I guess, what they say. So getting back into the article here, it reads, the Supreme Court unanimously stated that adult-themed dolls that bear resemblance to a minor are covered by the Penal Code's ban on adult-themed depictions of children. They also indicated in their verdict that the doll possessed both a body and size similar to a child, and that it was purposely designed for adult-themed interactions. Now, I'm also curious what the age of consent in Norway is. Let's take a look at that. Age of consent in Norway is 8. Oh, and that's the U.S. Hold up. I look up on Google Norway, and it pops up United States. Norway. Age of consent Norway. 16 years old. So, age of consent, according to ageofconsent.net, it says the age of consent in Norway is 16 years old. The age of consent is the minimum age at which an individual is considered legally enough. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Individuals 15 or younger in Norway are not legally able to consent. Norway law is violated when an individual has consented, blah, 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 with a person under age 16. Okay. So I'm really confused now. What exactly... I guess they could still argue it's a minor, even though this seems wackier and wackier by the minute, though, as you can see. It seems like they don't really have a clear, defined law for this sort of thing. But going back to the article, they write, the judge stressed that the doll had a face with childlike features and looked like a child far below 18. Far below 18. Okay. Justice and Immigration Minister of the Progress Party touted that the case's conclusion was a milestone in the fight against child and adolescent abuse. You got it? Some quotes. I am pleased that the Supreme Court has ruled that the import of child-size adult-themed dolls is illegal. This is an import judgment where it has been established that the dolls are affected by the penal code's ban on depictions of things that make adult-themed content regarding children. A remark from Attorney General Hugo, another quote, "We are pleased with the decision. In addition, we think it is a good one because it can also be used in the future." So they're making precedents. They continue to state, "It may also include new ways of depicting child ABUSE." Defense lawyer Christian Eldon, however, pointed out that the lack of specification, and that's going to what I just said, it seems like they don't clearly define this stuff at all. So let's see what they say about that. Defense lawyer Christian Eldon, however, pointed out that the lack of specification as the verdict neither clarified the height nor the physique in regards to what was considered punishable, as it instead emphasized the childlike facial features. And the quote here, "Dolls of adult-themed content are still a legal product, but not the ones that resemble children." To the dismay of many, such incidents are not isolated cases, as a previous occurrence, in the UK led to an old man being sentenced to 10 months in prison, suspended for 2 years, ordered to sacrifice 180 hours of his life to unpaid work. Oh my gosh. And also forced to attend rehab for 40 days, along with 6 months in an alcohol treatment program. So I don't know what that's all about. I'm curious. But before we move on to that, if we do. Okay, now that we've covered all of that, the weirdest thing here seems to be that the 45-year-old man allegedly hasn't even done anything adult-themed with the doll at all, right? It sounds like he simply ordered the doll and is getting into all of this trouble now. I mean, it says he allegedly ordered the doll back in 2016. Supreme Court deemed it to have childlike proportions. And then a quote that's very vague says it was shaped for adult-themed purposes. So what exactly does that mean? Is it designed with a special place to insert something? I don't know. I literally don't know because they don't give enough detail. And all they say is it's 1 meter tall and that it has childlike facial features. And for some reason, they say it's a doll for adult-themed content, which they don't elaborate on at all, really. They don't really elaborate on that at all. They say the doll has a body similar to a child. I mean, it's so vague. A lot of dolls could, even if they're adult dolls. I mean, they're dolls, man. You know, some of them are going to be really budget designed for kids, for parents to buy their kids. You know, there's so many things that could go into this. All in all, it seems like this guy is getting a bit of a rough sentence for just ordering a doll. And that's all that the story really tells us, is that he just ordered the doll and that he didn't really do anything further with it. So it's definitely an odd story. Taking a look now at that other story that was linked in the previous article regarding a similar situation with a 62-year-old British man. Apparently in the UK, he was sentenced to prison for buying, again, the same wording, a doll which had childlike proportions, and he bought it from China. Now, this article has a lot of words that YouTube doesn't like, so I'm just going to skim through this and give you the really quick TLDR. So, 62-year-old from Yorkshire, imported the 3.5-foot doll from China, found by Border Force officers at East Midlands Airport back in August 2017. He initially feigned ignorance by saying he didn't know it was adult-sized. Police pointed out that the seller specified the doll's size and childlike face. So apparently he even wanted it to have a childlike face. That's a little weird. Upon arrest, officers were aghast to find the old man to also be in possession of 22 obscene cartoon images depicting kids and text-based stories containing adult themes. So this is already quite a different story than the previous one. He was sentenced to 10 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. Seward, this is his last name, I guess, has been ordered to perform 180 hours of unpaid work, undergo a 40-hour rehabilitation and 6-month alcohol treatment program. So that part's oddly similar. Even issued a order to prevent him from harming himself. And apparently now he's monitored on the internet by the PD. I don't know how long that will be. It doesn't even give a time frame. Said he pleaded guilty to the charges of, quote, improper importation of an indecent or obscene article possessing a prohibited image of a person who is not of age and fraudulently evading prohibition or restriction in relation to said doll. Weird. Okay. So the article then finishes up by saying, humorously enough, a doctor for kids thoroughly inspected the doll as part of the investigation and confirmed that its stature was indeed comparable to that of a real child. They actually had a child doctor like inspect the doll. Oh my gosh. The investigating officer of North Yorkshire Police had the following statement. Says, the manufacture of childlike dolls for adult themes is very disturbing, and the underlying motives for acquiring one are a great cause for concern. It's not widely known that it is illegal to import dolls. Let me just say, this story is, in my opinion, quite different than the last one. The last one just said that the guy ordered a Miku Hatsune doll. Didn't even really say he was doing anything with it, if he was or wasn't. This is different. It's, the guy had magazines of some very questionable things, to put it lightly. Specified that he wanted the doll to look like a kid. So I'm going to be honest, that stuff is pretty messed up, to be honest, in my humble opinion. But again, you're going to have people wondering where the lines cross because it is just a doll. It's not real. I personally do think this guy might have been into some weird stuff. It does sound like it. The last guy, I don't know, man. This stuff is weird. There's a lot of gray lines, and I think maybe if they want to start cracking down on this sort of thing, so to speak, they got to be a bit more clear with how they want to enforce this and how it should be approached and all that sort of thing. All in all, a weird story. The second one, again, just a bit more odd. I mean, it wasn't even like a anime figure or anything like that. It was apparently just a doll. It's supposed to be a child. So that is a bit disturbing. The other guy sounds kind of like he just had a Miku Hatsune doll. And I guess that's where we're at. Not too much more to say on these stories. Let me know what you think about both of these stories in the comments below. If you wouldn't mind sharing the video, that'd be great. It helps out. On that note, so do the thumbs up, and so does subscribing, and check in if you are subscribed, and hitting that notification bell. All that jazz. So let's start wrapping this one up officially. Would like to give some shout outs to the wonderful people who promoted my last video over on Twitter. And if you posted it elsewhere, definitely appreciate it. My system only tells me on Twitter though. And we got Nightmare 13, Spin Master Rakta, Trivanika Damari, The Lancaster Kid, V, Quinash Lewis, Andrew, Cajun Bowser, Raven Wood, Super Doobs, Coden X, Drac Caprico, Spike, Ollie Wooly Gaming, Puckster, and Joshua B. Thank you all very much. Hope you enjoyed this one too, odd as it was. We'll see what comes next. I'll catch you next time. Peace.